She opened the book to page 114, and there it was again. Another note. Same handwriting, same quiet voice that had been speaking to her for 3 months, from a person she had never even seen. Who was writing to her? And why, after all this time, was she suddenly afraid to find out? This is the story of the bookstore at the edge of London.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's story is an intermediate level story, so if you understand most of what I'm about to say, you're exactly where you need to be. Before we start, let me give you 5 words to listen for. Keep them in your mind. Fate, coincidence, observant, metaphor, and introverted. I'll explain them naturally as the story goes, but by the end, you'll be able to use all 5 in your own sentences. This is a story about 2 strangers, one old bookstore, and the strange, quiet way that life sometimes brings people together. Let's begin.
There was a small bookstore on the edge of London, tucked between a bakery and a shop that sold nothing but umbrellas. It didn't have a sign outside, just a faded blue door and a bell that rang every time someone walked in. The owner, an old man named Mr. Whitfield, had run the shop for almost 40 years, and he liked to say that his books chose their readers, not the other way round. Emma had been coming to that bookstore every Thursday evening for almost a year. She worked at a law firm nearby, a job that paid well but left her feeling strangely empty by the end of each week. The bookstore was her escape, quiet, dusty, smelling faintly of old paper and coffee. She always went to the same shelf, classic literature, 3rd row from the window. And she always reached for the same book, a worn copy of Jane Eyre, its spine cracked from years of being opened and closed. One evening in early autumn, she opened the book to a random page, the way she always did, just to read a few lines before deciding whether to buy it again. She had already bought and lost 3 copies over the years, always leaving them somewhere, always coming back for another. And there, tucked between the pages, was a small piece of paper. If you're reading this, you probably love this book as much as I do. I've read it 4 times. Each time, I notice something new. What did you notice this time? There was no name, no signature, just neat, careful handwriting, and a small drawing of a bird in the corner. Emma smiled, a little confused, a little curious. She looked around the shop, half expecting someone to be watching her, waiting for a reaction. But the shop was empty, except for Mr. Whitfield, who was dozing quietly behind the counter. She didn't know it yet, but this was the beginning of something. She wrote back, right there on the same page, in small letters beneath the stranger's note. I noticed that Jane always chooses herself, even when it costs her everything. That takes courage. She placed the book back on the shelf, in exactly the same spot, and left. The next Thursday, she went straight to that shelf before she even took off her coat. The note was gone. In its place was a new one. Courage. Yes, I think that's the word I was missing. Thank you for it. Here's a question for you. Do you think Jane made the right choice, or was it fate that made it for her? Emma stood there for a long moment, holding the book against her chest. It felt strange, writing to someone she had never met, whose face she didn't know, whose voice she had never heard. And yet, somehow, it felt like the most honest conversation she'd had in months. This continued for weeks. Every Thursday, a new note. Every Thursday, Emma would write back, then wait, with a feeling she hadn't expected, for the following week.
The notes grew longer. They talked about books, about loneliness, about the strange coincidence, that was the stranger's word, of two people finding comfort in the same forgotten shelf of the same forgotten bookstore. Emma began to imagine who this person might be. Someone quiet, she thought. Someone thoughtful. Someone who noticed small details the way she did. An observant person. Someone who paid attention to things most people walked right past. She started to wonder if it was fate, that word again, that had placed them both in front of the same book, week after week, like two threads slowly weaving toward the same knot. But she never once tried to find out who it was. Something about the mystery felt sacred. If she asked Mr. Whitfield, he would surely know. He knew everyone who came into his shop. But she didn't ask. Not yet. Then, one Thursday, the notes stopped. Emma opened the book. Nothing. She flipped through every page, hoping she had simply missed it. Nothing. She came back the following week. Still nothing. Weeks passed. The silence sat heavily on her, heavier than she expected it to. She realized, with some surprise, how much she had come to depend on this strange, quiet friendship. A friendship built entirely on handwriting and shared sentences, without a single face, a single name, a single voice. One rainy evening, nearly 2 months after the last note, Emma sat in the shop, the book open on her lap, empty pages staring back at her. She felt foolish for being so disappointed. She felt foolish for caring this much about someone she had never met. "You're not the only one who reads that book, you know," said a voice. She looked up. It was Mr. Whitfield, holding 2 cups of tea, setting one gently beside her. "There's a young man," he continued, settling into the chair across from her, "who used to come in every Thursday, same as you. Quiet fellow, very introverted, barely said 2 words to me in 4 years. He always read that same book, always left something behind in it, though I never looked." Emma's heart began to beat faster. Used to? Mr. Whitfield's expression softened, the way it does when someone is choosing their next words carefully. He moved 3 months ago. His mother was unwell, up in Yorkshire. He came in one last time, very quietly, and told me he wouldn't be back for a long while. He looked sad about it. Sadder than I expected. Emma sat with this for a long moment, the rain tapping gently on the window. Did he leave anything before he left? Mr. Whitfield reached beneath the counter and pulled out a small envelope, slightly worn at the edges, as if it had been carried in a pocket for a while before finally being left behind. He asked me to give this to the person who reads Jane Eyre on Thursdays. I nearly forgot it was even here. With shaking hands, Emma opened it. "I don't know your name. I don't know your face. But I know you understand what it means to choose yourself, even when everything else is uncertain. I have to go now. My mother needs me.
and I need to be there. But I wanted you to know, these Thursdays meant more to me than you probably realise. Maybe it really was fate, like you said. Or maybe it was just a coincidence that turned into something real. Either way, thank you. If life brings us back to the same shelf one day, I hope you'll say hello. My name is Daniel, by the way. I should have told you sooner. Emma read it twice, then a third time. She looked up at Mr. Whitfield, who was watching her with quiet, knowing eyes. Do you have his address? Anything? I might, the old man said slowly, a small smile forming. Have something, if you're brave enough to use it. Emma looked down at the letter again, at the small bird drawn in the corner. The same bird from the very first note, all those months ago. She smiled. Some stories, she thought, don't end when the notes stop. Sometimes, that's simply where the next chapter begins. So, what did we learn today? Let's go through our 5 words one more time with fresh example sentences. Fate, something that seems destined to happen. Example, it felt like fate that we met at the same bookstore every week. Coincidence, when 2 things happen at the same time, seemingly by chance. Example, meeting my old friend at the airport was a complete coincidence. Observant, someone who notices small details. Example, she's very observant. She noticed the note immediately. Metaphor, a way of describing something by comparing it to something else. Example, the story used the bird drawing as a metaphor for freedom. Introverted, someone who is quiet and prefers small, meaningful conversations over large groups. Example, Daniel was introverted, but his letters were full of feeling. Now, here's a question for you, and I really want to know your answer in the comments. Do you think it was fate, or just a coincidence that brought Emma and Daniel together? Write your answer in English, even just one sentence. That's the best way to practice. If you enjoyed today's story, subscribe so you don't miss next week's. We're heading to a small train station outside London, where one stranger's umbrella changes the direction of someone's entire life. See you then.